Alright, I just finished More Real Spies. It's just a short little book. It's all beat up. It's got some notes in here. Just about people. It's called fiction, but these really are references to actual non-fiction sources. These are the references to things that actually happened. And then I am suspicious that it's... Okay, yeah, this is... I know where halfway is. I believe that's in Washington. I believe that it was written in 1919, and then they waited till 1966 before the first printing. But I believe it was first written by George Barton in 1919. So this is all focused on the Great War. It was all written before World War II happened. Okay, so this book was a sequel to Real Spies, and it's got other stories of different spies, maybe much lesser known because of, and not exactly spies, but mysteries too. All right, this guy was just trying to fill pages as best he could, and he put some mysteries in where spies could have been suspected of being a part of it. But I looked up some names, and I was familiar with the king who got killed, but I looked up some names just to see if, because one guy actually said in his appraisal that it's one of the best fiction books he ever read. This book, once again, was written before World War II, and there are actually some spelling errors and typos, because he spelt clues wrong twice. He spelt it as CLEWS instead of clues. Like on 103, page 103, you see that he spells it wrong, and I circled it. So, clue. And in the context, clue isn't even really a word. In the context, he's referring to actual clues. So it wasn't that, it wasn't really looked over closely. Even though they published it in 1966, you'd think they'd have some standards. But they're interesting stories nonetheless. All right, you still got the basic idea of what was going on. All right, there were just like a mystery of a World War II submarine or a World War II ship that just went missing, and they suspect that Germans were a part of it. Germans had a strong nationalism back then. Even in America, one German who was the main story blew up a bridge in like Maine. It was like Alexandria, or the Turkish Bolo Pasha. Bolo Pasha is interesting. Okay, he was a French, not a spy, but he just kind of turned on his country, and then he was hung. Yeah, he was called the Artless German, and his name it happened in Vanceboro, Maine, and the man was Werner Horn. Okay, so you could actually look up this guy's name, and it should show, and see the man was Werner Horn. I mean, all this was called fiction. There might have been some added like stuff to the stories to give it some flow, so the story flowed better. But it's pretty much a lot of real events that they're talking about. They couldn't even. I mean, they were still like confused about the bombing of the shooting of of what started World War I, where that one kid in Sarajevo shot the king and his wife. There's still some mystery surrounding how that came about, but it seems like it's explained a little bit more on TV now. The researchers and historians had looked into that more. It's really interesting how the newspapers in Belgium, when Germany took over, the newspapers had to hide their printing presses, and they were putting out these publications. They were really highly sought after because they were insulting the Germans and the occupation. And eventually they got caught. It took a long time. And it's kind of funny, whenever a paper like went a couple of weeks without being published, people wondered if they got caught or not. There was a Greek beauty. Her name is this. And this lady exists. She killed herself at 23, and because she didn't want to go back to France. She was said to be a spy, but it was just hard to prove. There were no charges against her. She was just living a lavish life. It's very interesting. All right, there's such thing as a treason. The U.S. government hired treason hunters. Okay, back in World War I, and then they abandoned them after the war was done. So they kind of went around and looked for people who were possibly spies, and sometimes they got it wrong, sometimes they got it right. And this is leading up to, say, the Japanese internment camps in World War II. I mean, there were a lot of problems with the nationalists in America trying to fight for their country. And so, I mean, America took extra precautions with Japanese in World War II. It seems understandable for the circumstances of the time to me. You know, looking back on it now, of course, hindsight is 20/20.